Retro game collecting in 2021 can be kind of an expensive endeavor, so in today's episode, we're here to help you out. We're going to talk about 15 awesome games on the Super Nintendo that you can get for under $15. What are we drinking today?
Today we're drinking The Beast with No Name by Clown Shoes. This is an imperial stout blended with barley wine ale, aged in rum, rye, and bourbon barrels.
Sounds great, and I can't wait to try it out. You know the drill. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell icon so you never miss one of our bi-weekly uploads. And sit back, relax, pour yourself a beer if you care to, and let's talk about 15 dingers on the Super Nintendo that are under $15.
Hey guys, Mbjm Gamer Girl here, and you're watching Gaming Off the Grid.
Alright, last week we gave you 10 NES games that are under $10. We figured we'd keep the train rolling and help you out a little bit more if you're looking to get into collecting for the Super Nintendo. A lot of these games, I would say, are fairly common. Probably won't take a lot of you by surprise, but it is kind of surprising that they're as cheap as they are.
Yeah, because a lot of these games are really fun, and we play these games all the time.
Yeah.
So we have it categorized somewhat by genre.
Yep.
So I think we just start with one of our favorite genres, and that's shooters.
Pew, pew, pew. So I think the Genesis probably, I think it's fair to say, is regarded as a better console for shooters than the Super Nintendo.
Yes.
But the Super Nintendo does have its fair share of good shooters. So the first one we're going to talk about is Gradius 3. Great entry in the franchise.
Yes.
Awesome Super Nintendo game. And it's kind of odd to me that the game is $12.12.
That's so crazy. It's so cheap, but it's actually awesome
Yeah.
because I love that game, and if I didn't already have it, I would buy it.
Yeah, and
because
I think
it's such a fun game.
we own it for the Super Famicom, I believe,
Yes.
right? Ours is the Japanese edition or whatever, but nonetheless, we have the game. It's an awesome game. Big fans of Gradius.
We love Gradius. Now let's move on to another shooter, Super R-Type. This game comes in at $12.75. It's just another great shooter.
It
R-Type,
is.
The R-Type series is fantastic.
And there's two good ones on the Super Nintendo. R-Type 3 is actually, I think, the better of the two. Super R-Type has its moments where slowdown's kind of an issue, which is not uncommon on the Super Nintendo, but for the price, comparatively, because R-Type 3, I want to say that's north of $100.
Jeez.
So the fact that you can get in on Super R-Type for $12.75 is pretty awesome. And what was it? Retrobit a while back released a double, like it has both games on one cartridge.
Really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And we were fortunate enough to get the collector's edition of that. So those might actually be floating around still for cheaper than what you can get Super or R-Type 3 for, rather. But nonetheless, $12.75 for Super R-Type, kind of a no-brainer.
Yes.
Now, the Super Nintendo really went into, with that FX chip, a lot of the 3D, they started trying that, and if you're into that type of shooter, Star Fox, most people have probably played it. Star Fox 64 is where that game really kind of took off, but on the Super Nintendo, it's archaic by today's standards, but it's still a serviceable game, and if you like that type of spaceship shooter, it's worth a shot, and it's only $13.98.
That's crazy, because Star Fox is such like an iconic name, and it's a fun game. Now let's move on to some racers, some vroom racers. Let's start with my least favorite of the group, and that's Stunt Race FX. This game is fun. It comes in at $8.80. But there's a lot better racers, I'll just say that.
Yeah, it's a good time. That you can kind of see they were trying to do like the Mario Kart thing. The graphics really remind me a lot of that game, but they don't pull it off quite as well. But for $8.80, it's a really fun game, and when you play two-player in the battle mode, it's a good time. But I think the next two are far superior, but Stunt Race FX is an awesome game. A game that I really like, and this is the cheapest in the series of games. It's also maybe not the best in the series of games, but it's the first one, Top Gear.
Yes. Dude.
Now, I love the graphics in this. It's got like that arcade racer aspect where it kind of helps keep you on the track.
It does.
A lot of fun.
The controls are tight. This game comes in at $10.21. Sometimes when you're playing, you are in a trance and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because you're going so fast. It plays well. The music's fantastic. Top Gear is so much fun.
It is. And this series really took off in Top Gear 2 because you could start customizing your vehicles and their attributes and things like that. Where Top Gear, you're just going series to series. It is kind of unique though, because you have to manage your use of nitro or NOS, but you also have to manage your fuel consumption.
Yeah, because sometimes you run out of gas and you don't finish the lap.
So a lot of those like 5-lap races, you're gonna have to take a pit stop, and so it's a lot of fun. It's a fun game to play 2-player for sure. But the best of the bunch on the racers has got to be F-Zero.
Dude, what an iconic series. What an iconic game. This game is only $10.66. Ah, dude, F-Zero's badass.
F-Zero and Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo are like 1A and 1B for me. I love the game so much, and the game just continued on and had great entries on the 64 and the Nintendo GameCube. Don't know what's happened as of late because, you know, like Falcon is in Smash Bros, so they still know about it, but we're just not getting a new F-Zero. So hey, Nintendo, I'd like a new F-Zero, but the first one ever was on the Super Nintendo, and it's right around that $10 price point, so you got to check it out. Now, sports games.
Sports, yes.
Sports games on the Super Nintendo, there's a lot of good ones. I think the next game we're going to talk about, though, is the best hockey game ever made in the sim style. But not my favorite hockey game ever, because I'd say NHL Hits takes that.
That's arcade.
But this is my next favorite hockey game, NHL 94. One-timers, anyone? This is the first game with one-timers. It's so much fun.
Dude, and this game comes in at $6.36.
Insane.
That's so cheap. It's so much fun. It's just a great hockey game.
It is, and this game really thrives playing two-player, so the AI is really, really annoying in single-player mode. But two-player, countless hours of fun can be had. The cool part, this game's just got kind of a cult following. It's been re-released on the Xbox Marketplace with modern rosters.
Yeah, that's crazy.
There's not a lot of games from this time frame that are getting that treatment, so you know NHL 94 has got some fans out there, and EA knows that was one of their best games that they ever made. NHL 94 is absolutely fantastic.
You could almost say that NHL 94 is Boom Shakalaka. Oh wait, that's the next couple of games we're going to talk about. Yeah. NBA Jam and NBA Jam Tournament Edition, both of these games are under $15. So NBA Jam is $11.43, and then Tournament Edition is $12.08, so just about the same price, and they're both amazing games.
And we said 15 games, but there's a couple in here that we double up on because they're so close to each other. These two being in that discussion. Now, NBA Jam Tournament Edition, I think, has better rosters. I think it's the better game of the two.
Yes.
However, the first NBA Jam, you can break the backboard. If memory serves me, you can't do that in Tournament Edition, or if you can, I've never been able to pull it off, or at least my memory can't remember doing that on the Super Nintendo. But man, it was so cool breaking the backboard in NBA Jam. But for the price, either one of these games, you'd be having a great time.
I freaking love NBA Jam.
And if you like that rim-shattering arcade sports action, there is another entry from Midway-ish, whatever. It was kind of after NBA Jam, NBA Hang Time.
What a fantastic game.
A $9 game. It plays really good on the Super Nintendo. Now, this is not the best version of this game, as this game also came out on the next generation. It was on N64 for sure. But the Super Nintendo version is the first one I ever played, even before I played it in the arcades.
Wow.
And it's a lot of fun. And the graphics are a little bit of a different style. The guys are a little bit more meaty and chunky, and you can kind of tell a little bit more of the detail. But man, NBA Hang Time running in at $9, that's a great game.
Yeah, that's like a steal.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to a very unique category, and that's Disney games. What?
Couple dingers here.
So, Lion King, which is a great game on the Super Nintendo, comes in at $9.15. I do think that the Genesis version may be better.
It is.
But this game is still fun on the Super Nintendo.
You can also make the argument for the next game we're going to talk about, and that's Aladdin. $11.38.
The Genesis version, I think, is better as well.
It's weird. I love both the Genesis and the Super Nintendo games, but I like the Super Nintendo version better. Go ahead, take me out in the comment section, because I played that a lot growing up, and it wasn't until later in life I played it on the Genesis, so I'm just more geared to the Super Nintendo one. Both are great games, and these games have got a second life recently. They recently released them on like a compilation pack,
which is so cool,
which I believe has both Genesis and Super Nintendo versions
That's
on
awesome.
the combo pack. So if you don't even have a Super Nintendo, by now that's got to be fairly cheap. I think you can grab it on the PS4, Switch, Xbox One, etc. So again, kind of a cult following for the Lion King and Aladdin games, so that's pretty cool.
And Aladdin comes in at $11.38, which is so cheap. Now let's move on to wrestling, dude. We love our wrestling.
So these games here, I think these games, I don't think they're great. I think they're a lot of fun, and they're great nostalgia plays, and especially for the price. WWF Royal Rumble and WWF Raw. very similar in nature. These games are both made by LJN. They've got that grapple system where you kind of got a tug of war going on, and then the winner of that kind of gets the move off. You know, just loosely, because we didn't go back and play these before this episode, I'm just kind of going from my memory.
Yeah.
But I believe Raw, maybe both of these are one of the first games that there were weapons outside of the ring,
which is so cool.
Really neat. The rosters are awesome. I do like the rosters on Raw a little bit better because that was kind of the new generation, if you will. But these games are a lot of fun. I love the music. I love the character selection. It's just kind of a capsule in time. And when you're looking at, you know, best games on the Super Nintendo in that wrestling genre, these are up there. I would say if you're more of a technical person, you know, the Fire Pro Wrestling game might be an option.
Those are so good.
If you're more into the arcade scene, Saturday Night Slam Masters, but you're getting into a little bit more money there for the price, these are a good time if you're an old school WWF fan. There was another WWF game that's cheap as well, but we didn't include it. It's the WrestleMania game. It's okay, but very limited roster.
Now let's move on to two iconic platformers on the Super Nintendo. That's Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3. Fantastic games.
Yeah, Donkey Kong Country was a staple on the Super Nintendo. Oddly enough, I feel like that's the game most people that have a Super Nintendo, because it was a pack-in.
The first one was a pack-in.
Later in life, in the Super Nintendo's life cycle, Donkey Kong Country 2 comes in and was probably the best of the three. And then the third one, it's got its charm, but I've just never connected with that game like I did the first two. I love the first two, and I'll always say the first one's my favorite.
The first one's great.
But it's amazing to me the prices on these. You know, the first one's over $15 by a little bit. Donkey Kong Country 2 coming in at $14.99, and Donkey Kong Country 3 coming in at $14.25.
So just under that $15 mark.
Great games, and honestly,
platformers.
If you're looking to keep it on the DL, I mean, I think you would have just as much fun playing 2 as you would 1, even though your nostalgia probably lies with 1. That's how mine is. But 2 and 3 are epic.
Now we got 2 more games to talk about, and I guess these count as Disney games. We should have thrown them in the Disney category, but they're standalone series, and that's Star Wars games. So I grew up loving Star Wars. So Super Star Wars on the Super Nintendo is $10.50, and then Super Star Wars Empire Strikes Back is $10.25.
We did a Star Wars episode a while back, and they made our list of games to kind of maybe bypass. These games are really good in the Super Nintendo realm,
but comparing them to other Star Wars games,
like I would much rather play like a couple of the newer ones, or even Knights of the Old Republic. I'd rather play 1 and 2 than maybe go back to these. They're not bad games. They're great for the price, and if you're really on a Super Nintendo bender and you want to play some Star Wars games, you're going to be able to get your rocks off playing those. But when you go back to them, they just feel a little more archaic than some of the other games on this list that are, I think, still super playable. So we threw them on here because there's maybe some Star Wars fans watching. So.
And when we went back and played them, I did have fun with them.
Yeah.
But I was comparing them to other Star Wars games that I love a lot more. So that it's kind of not fair, but who cares?
Yeah, but this is all about the Super Nintendo. And kind of the reason we're doing these, we love helping get you guys pointed in the right direction if you're starting to collect for a certain console, because the narrative, as we mentioned in the NES episode nowadays, is that you can't collect retro anymore.
Yeah, it's too expensive.
Here's 15 games that if you had all of these and this was all you had in your collection, you'd be like, man, I have a pretty cool Super Nintendo collection.
For cheap.
A lot of good games, a lot of good play here, and if you could go through and beat all these games, I mean, I think you'd have that badge on your hand.
Yeah.
I'm a retro gaming badass.
I'm a badass. Speaking of a badass, let's talk about this. The Beast with No Name. It's an Imperial Stout blended with barley wine, ale, aged in rum, rye, and bourbon barrels by Clown Shoes. This comes in at 10.5%. What do you think?
This beer is really complex.
Yeah.
Clown Shoes is kind of notoriously a brewery that every time we have something from them, for the most part, they deliver. This beer delivers. This is really good. I'm still kind of trying to figure it all out.
Yeah,
the barley wine, I think, is just adding a little bit of sweetness on the finish. Otherwise, this is really like an Imperial barrel-aged stout. The sweetness components probably coming in from that barley wine and from the rum.
And from the rum barrels, yeah.
But it's not overly sweet. I think it's a well-balanced beer. It's a fairly straightforward barrel-aged stout, with the exception of the sweetness on the finish, but it's very enjoyable.
It's very enjoyable. It's very smooth, and it doesn't seem very heavy for all the stuff that's going on. It doesn't seem like it's 10.5%. The flavor, like when I first took a sip, I was like, whoa, there's a lot going on, but it blends very well together.
It does.
It's super smooth. This beer is a sipper.
It is.
Definitely a sipper, but so good. And Clown Shoes is very incredible. And I just want to say, Thank you, BK, because BK sent this to us.
Did he? Okay, I couldn't remember where we got this bad boy, so thank you so much. But anyways, guys, the Super Nintendo, 15 plus dingers that you can get for under $15. Retro game collecting can still be done on a budget.
Yes.
I feel like the market for the NES has really kind of come down. I think we're starting to see a little bit of that on the Super Nintendo. Like, I found it more painful looking at Genesis games, GameCube games,
Oh, yeah.
those type of things than when I'm trying to, pick up a random Super Nintendo game or NES game. So I feel like things are kind of starting to settle. Now, some of the games that are rare, they're always going to be expensive, but don't let that turn you away, because there's tons of great games that can be had on a budget, and that's what we're trying to help you with.
That's the moral of the story.
Moral of the Oral. Ooh, that's a great
show.
It is.
Go watch that.
Yeah, we always appreciate you guys tuning in, subscribing to the channel. Yeah, get out of here and go play some Super Nintendo, and we'll see you next time right here on Gaming Off the Grid. You are getting sleepy. Very sleepy.
Should we try this?
Yeah. Give her a whirl. Wow. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah. But it's smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
We're all about